Hmm? Ah!
You're listening to the Run for Your Lives podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. I'm Daphne.
And I'm Pake.
And this is the Run for Your Lives podcast.
This episode is the comedy horror film An American Werewolf in London, written and directed by John Landis and released August 21st, 1981.
Yeah, we're going back.
Mm-hmm.
A little back in time to 1981.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have not seen this film since I originally watched it in the 80s. So it's been a long time.
I hadn't seen this one since this afternoon.
We pick movies sometimes just because we're feeling it or we see a trailer. This one I was just watching YouTube and I had forgotten about it for some reason.
Yeah.
And I said, let's do this.
Yeah, it's one of those classic movies that, like, I should have seen by now, but it's just like, I have so many other things that I do. There's like a lot of classics that have just like, whoop, just gone by me. So yeah, this is one that I have needed to see for a long time. So that's what this podcast is great for. Is finally giving me an unavoidable excuse to watch the movies that have been on my list for decades.
It is. And you know what? We're going to keep picking away at that list.
Mm-hmm.
You bring the movies that I never wanted to see, and I bring the movies that you have needed to see.
Yeah.
So, it works.
Yes. For sure.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about this one because I forgot about some of the comedic pieces, and I just think that knowing you, you're going to have some fun little quips and things to say about some of the parts.
Just a few, just a very small percentage. If my notes for this episode, for this movie, were a serial, they would be, oops, all jokes. So, that's what we're doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it was just the mood I was in today or something. I don't know, but it's like, I think honestly, at least a good 95% jokes.
Great. So we're going to laugh a lot, which happens on this podcast more than you would think. Or if you listen to us all the time, then you know we do like to laugh quite a bit on here. Pake does.
Sometimes.
Well, except for those few movies that we're very serious about just because of the subject matter. We're looking at you, the impossible. Otherwise, we do like to laugh. Yeah. And this is going to be no exception. So I think we should just jump in, starting with production notes. So An American Werewolf in London was filmed in Wales and England. Specifically, the moors were filmed around the Black Mountains in Wales. And East Proctor is in reality the tiny village of Crickadarn.
What a name.
I know.
That's the sound whenever, like, my sciatica acts up or, like, my back goes out. Crickadarn! That's what happens to me, but, you know.
Yeah. Pake, you're really too young for all of that to be happening to you.
Psh, tell that to my back and my body, because it is not aware of that.
The tagline for this one is, from the director of Animal House, a different kind of animal. It's pretty good.
The one from Muppets.
Uh-huh.
The drummer, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think so. Not this time. There were some Muppets in this film.
There were some Muppets in this one, though.
Yeah,
no animal.
It was fun. Kermit. Yeah, there were some things that Kermit said that made me laugh. The budget for this one was $5.8 million. It grossed $62 million at the box office, which is a success. It's 97 minutes long. Pake, bring on the synopsis.
All right. Usually I just take whatever from IMDb, but I didn't like theirs. Theirs was boring. So I decided to juice it up a little bit, sauce it up with my own. A guy from New York takes a hair-raising vacation across the pond. That's all you need to know.
It doesn't tell you anything, really, except that this is going to take place in Europe somewhere, and that the guy's an American.
Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And by hair-raising, he could be just getting a perm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a wild perm.
Man, I've never known a perm that affected your whole body.
A killer perm.
Oh, man. This is going to be fun.
I think so. Yeah. Like I said, all jokes. For the most part. But we'll do kind of what we do, as far as breaking down character stuff. Although, I'll be honest, it's like, my David percentage of notes is the same as my joke percentage of notes. It's pretty much all just him. And then I'll have a few other jokes and things about other people, to follow things up with once we're done. But yeah, some of these are real dumb too. I was in a real silly mood watching this one because I'm looking back at some of my jokes. I'm like, that's real stupid. I can't wait to say it.
And I bet our listeners are just dying to know what you think of all the little nuances of this one.
Yes.
So we do meet David.
Yeah, our backpackers, our vacationers, whatever they are. We don't really get a full reason why they're in England other than they just wanna see things. They're making their way to Italy eventually. That's kind of the initial plan. But yeah, Jack and David, a couple American boys backpacking through northern England. I thought you had to be Australian to backpack through Europe. Like I thought that was global law or something, but I guess not. I guess Americans can do it too.
Yeah.
And then as they get dropped off, they've been rolling with some sheep. They're going to walk their way to this little village, and there's this weird back and forth. I'm like, I don't think that's how knock-knock jokes work, bud. Like, at all. I don't even know what he was trying to set up. I'm like, no, I don't think... David, I think you don't get it.
I thought, it's a lovely conversation about love and fucking, and years of foreplay since the 8th grade with Miss Debbie Klein, and discussing what Jack wants to do with Miss Debbie Klein, and how he's in love with her, which David just kind of brushes off and tries to get him to understand that, maybe it's not love. You guys have known each other for a long time, whatever. But they go to this quaint little village of East Proctor and happen upon this, oh my God, the slaughtered lamb.
Yeah. What a homely little place, right?
If nothing else is a sign.
Yeah, but they go in, they're looking for warmth in a couple different ways. Food, drink, temperature. But the reception that they get when they walk into that pub is probably colder than the air outside.
Yes.
It's just very...
That reminds me of a movie we haven't covered yet.
Mm.
But we will. I think it's one that Jason's coming on for.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I have no idea what you're talking about. But
very similar. Also old, but still very good.
Nice.
I thought it was interesting that they thought maybe based on a star on the wall that the owners could be from Texas, Pake. Do you see that sort of thing where you live?
It's a very different star, but yeah, I mean, usually it comes with like a Texas flag, not just a star. But that does get livelihood to return to the room a little bit. Once Texas history becomes the point of conversation. And yeah, I've heard that plain joke only 17 million times while growing up. Like it's common occurrence here. I know that one by heart by the time I was 5.
Yeah, I thought the townspeople were kind of having a lot of fun at the expense of David and Jack. They were kind of basically teasing them and making fun of America, of everything. I mean, but it's better than when they first walked in and everyone just stared them down like they had the plague. Yeah.
So, yeah, didn't expect visitors at that time, especially for that night. It was a very specific kind of night that, they didn't want to let them out, but also can't let our town secret, can't let our village secret get out. So, you know, if we're trying to avoid that, definitely make sure we send them out to where if they survive, they'll go to town and tell everybody what happened.
Yep.
That's a great way to keep a secret.
That's how you keep a secret in this little village of East Proctor.
Yeah, but yeah, they let the guys just go and venture out.
Well, the barmaid, the bartender, she really, kept saying to everybody, no, we shouldn't let them out. We need to get them back. But they do give them this little tidbit of information, which they had already heard once before, which is
state of the roads.
State of the roads. Don't go on the moors, and beware of the moon this time.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Which they don't follow any of that at all. Here's some interesting growling and howling sounds. Sorry, it turns out it was not a good doggy, Jack.
No, not a good doggy at all.
At that point, R.I.P. Jack. But then luckily the village people, not the music group, do show up. They decide to help in time to save David.
Yeah, but it's a little too late for David.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he wakes up days later.
Weeks later. 3 whole weeks later.
In London. And he's pretty sure what he saw and experienced, but the authorities are obviously not believing him, which, yeah, that's how these things go, right? God.
I don't want to talk about the authorities right now, but can we please talk about the authorities at some point? Because I really have some things to say.
Oh, I have some thoughts about different people for sure.
I just do. There are just things in this.
And he's laying up there in bed in recovery, having, the classic prancing through the forest naked eating deer dream. Happens all the time. Just your usual recovery things, right?
He had lots of weird dreams.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's one that ends with him. I thought he looked like a vampire.
Yeah. Yeah, the dreams just kept getting weirder and weirder and scarier and multi-leveled where he had the classic wake up from the dream and then it's actually still the dream.
Yeah. Yeah, that one was pretty brutal.
Yeah.
Because it seemed like he was back home and then, no, he wasn't back home.
Yeah. So he's just trying to tell people, hey, look guys, it was a werewolf. It was a wolf. It was a moon. And they're like, sure it was. It's like, look at the scratches. Crazed man is hard to go with when you have that. And he brings up a good question. He's like, did you see Jack? Did you see his body? And he's like, oh no. It's like, yeah, you should check that out. That's not a person. Doesn't do that.
No. He's trying to get through to them, but they just disregard it because it seems they seem like the rantings of a crazy man.
Yeah. The only person who seems to really give him any positive interaction is Alex, the nurse, which right from the get-go, I was like, that is some heavy flirting, if I've ever seen it. Just kind of randomly. It's like, but she's trying to get him to eat. She ends up feeding him, which for a second I was like, he can't eat human food anymore. And then I remembered, no, he's a werewolf, not a vampire. I'm mixing mythology.
Right. I know, I thought that too. And I'm like, no. No,
that's not how that works.
No, that's not how it works. Yeah. He does keep trying to convince them. It's just people don't listen. Why is it? This is the biggest problem with movies today. And of course, if they did listen, we wouldn't have the movie because they would not get into trouble. So things have to go to hell in order for the movie to happen. However, people just don't listen. He even starts making fun of himself.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm crazy.
Well, it's after he's experiencing Jack again, coming back. Which the way he's like, David! David! Ew, David, no. David! I'm just your buddy. I came back from the dead. I'm in your imagination. Don't be weird, David! Ew. No.
Oh, man. I need to revisit that show again soon. I really do. With the ending of Ted Lasso, my life has gotten a little sadder, so I've got to get back.
Parks and Rec. Parks and
you
Rec.
Keep
always.
saying that. Always.
Yes, and I will keep saying it until you do it.
What if I just say that I'm doing it? How will you know if I am?
I guess I'll have to quiz you.
Isn't that how you get me to watch things in the first place? Is by quizzing me? Okay.
Possibly. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But anyway, so this undead Jack is here telling him what's going on and what he needs to do, which I was like, is Jack a ghost or an internet troll with the things that he's saying? But okay, for real, is this like any kind of typical werewolf lore? The victims wandering the spiritual plane until the wolf bloodline is ended? I don't think so. This is new to me. It's the first time I've ever heard of that part. Ever.
I know. And this movie is 42 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been around for a while. It never caught on, Pake.
I guess not, because that's the first and only time I've ever heard of that part. Because they mention there's a lot of classic werewolf lore. Like they even like make like notes of like other movies and things in the past. You know, he's talking about the Wolfman and all that stuff. Like, because a lot of this movie is just a lot of this plot is just someone taking some random thing from a movie or werewolf lore and assuming it applies in this situation, and then it does. So
yeah, I thought it was funny. The doctor tells him, "Please remain sane until you're no longer our responsibility."
It's a great line. That's a great
There were
line.
a lot of great lines in this movie. I particularly liked, and stick to the road. Oops. And they realize they're out in the moors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this part of lore was unique to this. It was kind of strange.
Yeah.
But then also, you know, I was talking back. I felt like I was MST3K'ing this movie a lot, where I was just throwing notes. And then I tried to like make some of those notes when I would say something. But, you know, because Undead Jack has this line. He's like, "Have you ever talked to a corpse? It's boring." And I'm like thinking, like, yes, literally right now. And don't be so hard on yourself. You're plenty interesting. You know, like.
But Jack decays more and more as we go through this movie.
I love that.
Wasn't that cool?
That's a really cool little touch that every time we see him, he's a little more gruesome, a little more decayed. It's great. Yeah.
Yeah. I liked there were some scenes that involved victims that I liked that piece of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because with David, you get this feeling that, you know, he doesn't really know what he does. And I'm talking about things that happen later in the movie, so I should probably shut up now.
Yeah. Well, we don't stay in the hospital too much longer, which we see maybe the weirdest like pickup of a girl I've ever seen attempted, but I guess it kind of worked. I don't think I'll be adding crying for a nurse so then I can kiss her and then use the line, "I'm a werewolf," to my repertoire. I don't know. I mean, in the end, she does take him home with her, so I guess it worked perfectly, but it seems like a strange move.
Well, you know what? She probably just wanted a puppy. Doesn't everyone want to adopt a puppy?
This was her. Yeah, because she keeps telling him over and over, I can't tell if you make me sad or I'm attracted to you. Like, it's not the best pickup line from her side either. I don't know.
But she still takes him home. And the funny thing is, when they walk in her house, I was just thinking, okay, David wants to eat her for lunch. But not in a traditional way, in a sexual way. And then off we go.
Yeah, that's where just some of my like MST3K style jokes came flying through here. Because one is on their way home. I've heard of the Soul Train, but this is the first time I've seen them taking a punk train.
Yeah, that was funny.
And then when they got into her flat, and he's taking off his backpack and goes, "Mind if I get rid of this?" And I just went, "You probably shouldn't. All your belongings are in there. You can take it off and set it down, though." And then she's giving him a little tour of the flat. And the closet, oh, nice. And the bathroom, lovely. And the bedroom, where the magic happens, is what I was thinking. But no, it turns out that it's actually the bathroom.
Yeah.
Specifically the shower.
Mm-hmm.
She said you could watch telly while she showers. Damn Americans not understanding British words.
Yeah, I think he thought that it meant, you can come in and wash me.
Yeah, I don't think he meant what that meant. I said watch, not wash. Yeah, but he goes for it. And then we get like their sex scene, which, again, because I hadn't seen this movie before, I don't know, for some reason, I just like put it in like the mind, or like the idea of, I don't even know. Like there's certain other kind of like comedy horror movies of the time that are more family friendly, that there was a lot more language and nudity in this movie than I expected. I'm not complaining at all, but it's just like, not what I thought was going to be when I got into this. I was like, oh, okay. Got it. We're just going to like say every word that we could say, which again, doesn't bother me. And I was like, oh, and there's just boobs and penises and it's fine.
Yes, there's a lot in this movie. And I had forgotten because I told you the last time I saw it was probably like 1985.
Yeah.
So I didn't remember too much about it. It's just not one that I go to.
Yeah.
It's not one that I, revisit all the time.
I did really enjoy it, as like goofy as it was. But yeah, so she goes back off to work. He's convinced kind of now that like this werewolf thing might be real, but he's not sure because he keeps talking with Jack. And then that's why he's like messing around. He's got the place to himself. It got on my nerves a little bit. He like looks in the mirror and he's like, and I was like, you literally just said the word snarl. What an idiot. Like, you didn't snarl. You just said the word snarl. And then why did he open the front door and then just walk away? I don't know what he was doing.
He was looking in the mirror. He was saying, I'm not hungry. Because he kept like looking in the refrigerator. He even said fee fi fo fum, for crying out loud.
I smell the blood of an Englishman. Yeah. I do like that.
Yes, but that's what the giant
it's not a werewolf
did,
thing.
Not a werewolf.
Yeah. He's got his lore all mixed up too. It's fine.
And he had trouble with Jack because he doesn't want to listen to Jack.
Mm-hmm.
But he does say that he'll not be threatened by a walking meatloaf.
Which was a great line again too. I love that. But yeah, so he's laying down, getting up, walking around, saying snarl into the mirror, opening doors and then not going out them. Mm-hmm. Whatever you do.
When you're by yourself in your girlfriend's apartment. Your girlfriend of 1 or 2 days apartment.
Yes. But then, he's sitting there reading and then he jumps up in extreme pain. He says, I'm burning and burning. And he rips all his clothes off and he's like, oh, never mind. It's just gas. No,
I thought maybe he was the Wicked Witch, but oh wait, she said she was melting, not burning. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, more than gas. For real, it was one hell of a practical transformation scene that I want to know everything about, and I'm willing to bet, Daphne, that you brought the goods.
Some of them. Some of them.
Yeah.
If not all. Some.
Takes off on his rampage for the night. Which, when he's mauling this couple in the backyard of the building there, those flats that were sneaking around the back because they wanted to scare their friends or whatever. Which is funny because like the wife or girlfriend of that guy is like looking at it and is like, oh, there's some hooligans out there. And it's like, yeah. Look at these bodies ripped to pieces in the backyard. Such hooliganism. Riffraff. Immature behavior, truly.
They're just a gang. It's like, I know. It's like a Clockwork Orange. It's like the gangs in the Clockwork Orange.
Yeah. And we see the Dave Wolf's body count build up pretty fast. At least for that night, just those 6 that he gets. He runs up on some homeless people, and one guy's like, that's not Winston. And I was like, you can tell, because it was in Howl in an American accent, not a British dog. And then when they see him, he goes, Mary, Mother of Jesus! And I was like, no, not quite. She's much less hairy. But good guess. And yeah, so that's already 5 down. We got 1 more to go, which I noticed the guy gets off the train there, in the tube, and it didn't tell him to mind the gap, so clearly he was doomed.
Yep.
And so he's hearing snarling. He goes, I shall report this! I'm like, what are you going to say? Officer, there's someone down there growling and stuff. And I'm pretty sure I heard him say the word snarl. Like, not actually snarl, but he just said the word. And it was really weird. I'm embarrassed for him. But, doesn't get a chance to report it. Now I know we think that David killed the guy on the escalator, but we don't see the death. I mean, we see the guy later in the other theater.
Yeah,
but
so we know.
Just, maybe he just fell and, bumped his head or something, because I happen to speak a little werewolf, and honestly, when the guy's on the escalator and those last growls that we hear before that scene ends is werewolf for, Sir, you dropped your umbrella. Oh no, in your briefcase. Let me help you up, sir. Oh, how terrible. But yeah.
Yep, Pake actually has friends that are werewolves.
I do. Yeah, which Then we see the sign for the porno theater that he ends up in later in the movie. The "See you next Wednesday" ad on the subway wall or whatever the tube.
Yeah.
A nonstop orgy. And I'm like, do they really advertise like porn in public spaces? You know, kids take the tube as well, right? Seemed very strange to me. Also, the name of the film, I can't decide if it's clever or actually just really dumb because it defeats the whole purpose of that phrase. Either way, I don't know. Yeah. I'm not sure. And then next we see him, he's waking up naked in a wolf exhibit, which
is what you do when you've had a bender, right?
I hate when that happens. It's annoying every time, honestly. I mean, even the monkeys and the apes, like, oh, awkward.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's never a great idea to lure a child to a bush that you're hiding naked in and bribing him with money. You know, immediately I insert Fred Armisen from Parks and Recollection going, right to jail! You know,
Oh, and see here, I was thinking this was the beginning of Pennywise. Where we, instead of going into the sewer, we're getting behind a bush.
Yeah. It's easier access, the bush. It's lower budget. Yeah, the kid goes back to his mom, a naked American man stole my balloon. It's like, what? Again? Henry, that's the 4th time this week.
What have I told you about talking to naked American men?
He'll never learn.
No, he will not.
But he does. He's got some fashion. They're just wearing just that dress that he nabbed, which, I don't know, all he had to say was he was in like some like, you know, electro pop band or something. It was the 80s. Like, then, as long as they thought he was like a musician, it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Fashion.
It was a coat,
gotcha.
actually. It was a coat that he had. Yeah, it was interesting.
But he gets back. Alex is on the phone with the doctor. Which, you know, is he acting strange? She's like, oh, who? David? No, perfectly normal. He's so excited about having zero memory of the entire last 12 hours and his morning of public nudity. So, you know, he's the poster boy for complete normalcy.
Yes,
right?
Sure. Yeah. Normal. She's known him for what? A few days? What is his normal?
Yeah.
I mean, his normal is running around saying, I'm a werewolf.
Right. It's like, even if this guy isn't, there's something loose, for sure.
Yeah.
So they're going to go see the doctor. We learn that their cab driver is a Sweeney Todd fan, so that's awesome.
He is.
So am I, which then made me wonder, I was like, does that fit our parameters? Because we could definitely go with more musicals on this podcast.
Have we ever done a musical?
We've done one.
Okay.
I feel like we should do more.
I think I'm down for that.
Sweeney Todd. Demon Barber of Fleet
Street.
But
did you recognize that cab driver?
I did not.
Well, when we saw him, he was living in a retirement home. Defending his friends from the slowest moving zombies that I've seen in a while.
That's great.
That is Mr. Alan Ford, one of his earlier roles. If you go back and watch his scene and listen, you know it, right? Like, it's, the voice gets you, but looking at him, he's just so much younger that it doesn't connect real quick.
Yeah. But yeah, through the cab driver, our Sweeney Todd loving cab driver, David learns about the deaths from the night before, and so he knows it's him. It was him. It's definitely him. Jack has warned him, so he's going to turn himself in. And that's one of the reasons we really know this isn't in America, because he can't even get arrested when trying to.
Yeah, and Alex wants to take him to the doctor, because the doctor wants to get him whatever's going on. Alex and the doctor want to help him.
Yeah.
Instead, he goes to this cop that's just a regular. I mean, he just goes sees this cop. He tries everything. He's swearing. He's making accusations about the Queen, Winston Churchill.
I had a conversation with a street cop in London once. He was very fun. Right, a side tangent, but yes.
Really? How was he fun, Pake?
I don't know. I don't remember. It was so long ago, but he was just very conversational. He's just standing there in his hat with his vest. It's just like, yeah, we're just going to chat for a while. It's fun. I didn't try to get him to arrest me, so I
Good. How long did you keep him chatting? I know you, and I know that you can chat. How long did you keep him going?
It probably wasn't that long at all, but it was fun. It was fun.
And somewhere in England, there is a cop who remembers talking to you.
Maybe. Hopefully not. No. Yeah. No. And then David says that it's another full moon the next night, which I guess I've never really thought about it, but it made me Google. I was like, wait, how long does a full moon last? And so I've wound up with this little tidbit, so doo 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 doo, more play the little chimes. This Google bit is technically the point at which the moon is full lasts only an instant, but to the naked eye, though, the moon can appear to be full for upwards of 3 days. So I guess in werewolf lore, it doesn't actually have to be full. It just has to look full.
Okay, so that's why I have insomnia for multiple days. Because for some reason, the full moon, around the full moon, I have trouble sleeping sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a werewolf.
I don't know. Now I'm worried. It's not going to be a full moon in July or October, because those are the next times we're actually hanging out.
I know. No, it won't be. I better talk to someone who can handle that.
Yeah. And then David calls home to make sure to let his family know that he loves them, which just speaks to his little sister, Rachel. Mom and Dad would never leave me home alone at 10. No, not 10 and a half either. 10 and 3/4, though, yes, absolutely. But those first two are completely insane, out of the question.
Yeah. But I think it shows in some way, though, if you look at that scene, nowadays, people, at least one parent would have tried to get to the UK.
Yeah.
If their child was in.
Yeah, it's been like
3 weeks.
Like 3 weeks, almost, going on a month. And it's just like, they haven't even checked in on him.
No.
Yeah, I'm fine now. I'm awake. I'm just hanging out here.
That one guy that was from the embassy. Oh my God.
Oh my, this ambassador guy or whatever.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I do have a note about that. I was like, God, this guy's a moron. And he's like, they break the news to what's going on. David's like, Jack is dead. And then the first line he goes, hi. And it's like, what are you like?
Who are you? I mean, it didn't make any sense to me the way that he was acting. And then he was talking about the hysterics. Like David's hysterics. And I'm like, you sound like.
I appreciate how upset you are. Shut up, dude. What an idiot.
It reminds me of some of the older movies where women would be treated by men sometimes as, prone to hysterics.
Yeah.
And so, they need a cold compress for their head after getting news
or something else.
That's
how the invention of a certain device was made, was for hysteria, right?
Yes.
How many people just like, yeah, I'm totally hysterical. Give me.
Always hysterical. Permanently hysterical.
Yes, always. Yeah. Anyway, after this phone booth conversation with his sister, he sees Jack again and goes into this porno theater showing this film that we saw advertised earlier in the movie, which, man, this porno flick is something very, very special. Because it's a fake film made and filmed just for this movie.
No.
And I loved it so much. How hard I laughed at the entire interaction. You promised never to do this kind of thing again. I never promised you any such thing. Not you, you twit. Her. I've never seen you before in my life. Oh, sorry.
And he leaves.
Cinema. Pure cinema.
I thought he was going to probably join in. Like, I thought that's what the point was.
I know, right?
And when he walked out the door.
But yeah, him going, oh, sorry, and walking out the door, I died laughing. It's the best thing I've seen in a long time.
And it just continues all through that whole scene because, well, Jack's there and he's brought a few friends, and Jack really looks quite bad, but his friends are still relatively new.
Yeah. To the fresh kills from the night before.
Yeah. So they're walking around in purgatory, kind of like Jack, only they're fresh. And they're talking to him too.
Yeah, it's quite a scene. David sitting in a porno theater in Piccadilly Circus, letting a group of dead people tell him the several ways in which he can off himself. It's another one of those exact situations that I do hate finding myself in from time to time.
Note to self, let's not take Pake to a movie theater. Oh, wait, we're going to do that.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's there that the night falls, the moon comes out, and the next transformation hits, and those other people in the theater have to be thinking, like, oh my god, that poor guy, that is the most violent orgasm I've ever heard in my life.
I thought the same thing.
I mean, it did end with plenty of hot liquid spraying across the room.
Yeah, only not
blood, Daphne, blood. Keep your mind out of the gutter.
I know, but you keep bringing this stuff up, and that's where it ends up.
And then lots of mayhem when he busts out of the theater. Heads rolling, people flying through windows, car and shop. The one dude that flies out of the bus and then gets run over by a car was so over the top. I literally jumped. It was so over the top. I was like, what the fuck? Bravo. It was amazing. And then we get the most abrupt ending of all time. The police corner the beast. Alex rolls up. She drops the L word on him, and then the police shoot the emotionless monster. David's dead, naked body is seen. Alex cries. Roll credits. The end.
The music in this movie was all moon related. Did you notice that?
It was.
Yeah.
Several versions of Blue Moon.
Yep. Moon Dance. Bad Moon Rising.
Yeah.
At the time of the transformation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It was really good. I thought they did a great job with that. I did like that one of the victims said, and you might want to write this down, Pate, because this could be another band name for your list.
Mm-hmm.
Carnivorous Lunar Activities. I thought was quite clever.
It's a good one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel bad for Alex because she really did care about him, but man, she had to do that. That was the only way to end the suffering.
Yeah, I mean, she didn't even do it. Because that was another weird, I was like, I think somebody who loves him has to kill him. And then she didn't. She just stood there.
I've loved you. He told her he loved her. Now, she didn't say it back. But I'm thinking, is this one of those love at first sight things where you fall in love and you just, after a day? Is that how it works? Because they barely knew each other.
Yeah, it was all right. Yeah, I that was all that I have on David in most of the movie. I have some other little thoughts, but Alex would be next. But I literally just have one little note that really includes her. I was like, oh, so she's real dumb, right? I mean, to take a patient who's clearly dealing with some major trauma home is one thing. But also, the whole situation was just I left your pills in the flat, the one that I locked behind us that you can't get in without a key. Okay, bye! What was that?
But that's kind of when we started to see some things that were affecting David. That cat was hissing.
Mm-hmm.
That cat did not want to be around him, and it's oh, okay.
Yeah, and there's also, the little dog that was barking at him, and the girl's just giggling in the same way creepily. Which is weird, but yeah. Show that other animals are not fond of him being around at any time.
No.
Except for the wolves. They don't mind him.
Yeah. They were fine with him at the zoo. They weren't attacking him. So strange.
Yeah. But, so yeah, if you have more David notes.
Well, at the beginning, when they were in the back of the truck with the sheep, I just was thinking, oh, is this going to be like Black Sheep? Are we going to get some craziness? Is this going to happen?
It's funny, I had the same thought.
I missed that movie. I feel like I need to watch it again. Because it was so good. One thing I did like about Alex is she didn't seem to take his shit. He kept saying, I'm not hungry, I'm not hungry. She made him eat.
Which made the relationship a little bit weirder, too, because she was treating him like one of her, child patients. It's
Can you tell me what the purpose of Benjamin was in this movie? Because I don't know. He had a lot of comics and he kept saying no. I don't know what his purpose was.
No.
Yeah, no. That's all there is. Yeah, I think that's all I had.
Yeah, then I mentioned with Alex. Jack, I had a couple of little notes. Just at like the beginning, before he was undead, Jack, is, when they go into the slaughtered lamb there. I was like, yeah, the star is probably exactly what he thinks it is because of the movie we're watching. I mean, werewolf is in the title, but Jack, 5 pointed stars mean lots of things. Mm-hmm. It's such a strange thing to just jump to immediately. And then way to read the room, Jack. You just killed the vibe in there asking about the star. You made that weird dude miss the dartboard, so how dare you?
And he is credited as like Dart Man. Because I wanted to know what his name was because of something to do with when Hirsch went there. I'm like, well, what was his name? And I went to look it up. It's like Dart Player or something like that.
Uh-huh.
That doesn't help.
Yeah. But it's like, well, what do you know? It was to ward off a wolfman. Good guess, Jack. Too bad that you don't know you're right and you're back outside.
Too bad you don't know the difference between the road and the moors.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that difficult.
I don't think so.
There's a road and a moor.
Mm-hmm. There's no more road, but you could go on more road.
Takes me back to Arthur Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes story, The Hound of the Baskervilles. A lot of that takes place on the moors. Mm-hmm. So watching this, it was like, oh, yeah. The moors.
And then, let's see, just a few other notes randomly, and then I'll let you get to whatever. With, mentioned the, embassy guy. The doctor, Hirsch, which the door on his office says J.S. Hirsch. And I was like, oh, Judd Hirsch. Judd stinkin' Hirsch. That's the most incredible transformation of this film, is the fact that he looked like that. No. When he goes to East Proctor to kind of follow up on some of the stuff and see what's going on, I was like, man, these slaughtered lamb regulars are acting a little too ignorant of the situation. When he's like asking, he's like, werewolves? Never heard of them. Americans? Never heard of them either. Boys? Yeah, I'm not familiar with the concept. You know, they just...
Yeah, and he gets the same treatment that they got, really. They don't want you to come. They don't want you to leave. They just don't want you to be there in the first place.
Right.
Don't
so if anything,
don't
it just
go. Yeah.
makes him more suspicious. They're not doing a great job. And then when he leaves the pub, I was like, you took one sip of your Guinness. What a terrible, sad waste. How dare you?
That is sad.
How do you just take one sip and then go, okay, I'm leaving? No, what the? How dare you? There are children starving in Ireland.
Who need their Guinness?
Yeah. In Ireland, as far as I know, this could be just another urban myth, but I think so. Maybe Derek listens and let me know. But I think Guinness is officially considered a food.
I wondered about that.
It's like carb density, and it's considered a food product more than a beer or alcohol.
Oh, all right. Well, you learn something new every day.
Yes.
The dart player is the one who actually talks to him and says, there's something wrong with this place, before he's yelled at by another pub person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this Dr. Hirsch knows that people were lying, because that was a given. But I did like the line that he had, where he thinks that the werewolf thing, at first, is just a delusion, that then is shared by David, but it's still a very dangerous one. I was like, honestly, that might be the most extremely realistic assumption and way someone like him would think about this I've ever seen. That's...
Yeah, it's a delusion. He thinks he's a werewolf. He's doing those things. So we need to get him in here and stop him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit before we move on to behind the scenes, which I do have some good stuff. I want to talk a little bit about the inspector and the sergeant, because I have to tell you.
Uh-huh.
The inspector died and I was happy.
Heads will roll.
Yes, they will.
Mm-hmm.
Because the sergeant, that poor sergeant, he just basically dismissed him, everything he said. Every time. Their meeting with the doctor, I was just like, so this is how it is. You have to be abused and take it, I guess. Because I thought it was abusive the way that he was treating him. So when he decided to let his head roll later, I was totally fine with it. I'm like, you go, David. Take him out. Too bad you can't take out that guy from the embassy, too, because he's useless.
David! Yay!
Well, everyone.
We got David!
We're all a little bit Alexis.
Just random tangent because we're starting up Black Mirror on Strange Indeed soon. I've already watched the first episode of this season of Black Mirror has Annie Murphy, and it's incredible.
Of course it is, because anything she does is incredible. Annie can do anything. It's amazing. All right, well, I feel like we've talked about everything. So, I think it's time for some behind-the-scenes stuff. So, before this film, Landis was a well-known comedy film director, bringing us movies like Animal House and Blues Brothers. While he was working as a production assistant on the film Kelly's Heroes in Yugoslavia, he developed the concept for An American Werewolf in London. So when he was in the car with one of the other crew members from Yugoslavia, they encountered a group of Romani people who were engaging in burial rituals to prevent a person from rising from the grave. This experience sparked his idea for a film in which a man undergoes a similar ordeal, realizing his inability to confront the undead. Although Landis wrote the first draft of An American Werewolf in London back in 1969, it stayed on his shelf for over a decade. This is the first film to earn the Academy Award for Best Makeup. Category was created in 1981 in response to complaints about the lack of recognition for all the makeup work done in 1980's The Elephant Man. But while The Elephant Man didn't receive an award, the creation of this category aimed to acknowledge and honor the makeup effects in films going forward. Prior to this, makeup artists were only eligible for special achievement awards for their contributions. So Rick Baker won the 1981 Best Makeup Academy Award. He was the first one. In fact, he went on to win the award 6 more times, setting a record, and he's been nominated 11 times in total.
Nice.
Filming An American Werewolf in London in England posed challenges, and although John Landis obtained a work permit, securing permits for David Naughton and Griffin Dunn proved to be more difficult. The British Trade Union insisted on British actors for the lead roles, while Landis preferred Americans portray the American characters. We see who won that battle. To film in Piccadilly Circus, which had not been allowed for 15 years, Landis invited 300 London police officers to a screening of The Blues Brothers, which earned their support for him shooting his movie there. They were impressed by his work, and they granted the production a 2-night filming permit from 1 to 4 a.m. During this time, the traffic was only halted 3 times for brief 2-minute intervals to capture the automobile stunts featuring the double-decker bus. Other filming locations included Putney General Hospital, Chiswick Maternity Hospital. Can you imagine Chiswick Maternity Hospital? Nobody gave birth in this movie, did they? Did I miss something?
I mean, I guess it's just they used it for the hospital set.
Also Redcliffe Square in Earl's Court, the area around Tower Bridge, Tottenham Court Road Underground Station, London Zoo, Putney High Street, Belgravia, Hampstead, and Southwark. Executives from Polygram wanted Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi in the lead roles, but Landis wouldn't go for it. Landis wanted to cast newer actors. I don't think it would have been the same with those two in the lead roles.
I think having it be a much younger kind of thing, it makes sense. It fits it much better.
So after David transforms back into a human, he finds himself in the zoo's wolf exhibit. Real wolves were used, and David Naughton was really naked.
I can tell he was really naked, because even when he's running around trying to cover himself, he didn't do a great job sometimes. So yeah, I could tell.
Did you see more of David Naughton than you ever thought you would?
Yeah, I didn't expect to see so much little David in this movie, but there it was. Okay, not complaining. It's fine. But whatever.
Movie is dedicated to Jim O'Rourke, who had worked with Landis on a 1973 film called Schlock, in which a small town is terrorized by the Banana Killer, which turns out to be the missing link between man and ape.
Oh, wow. Is that getting added to our list?
I don't know, Pake. After Jim died of lung cancer shortly before the work began on An American Werewolf in London, John Landis banned his crew from smoking on set. So, with regard to the whole scene, in a 2017 interview with The Guardian, David Naughton explained his experience of becoming the deadly beast for the film. He said, in order to get the prosthetics just right, Naughton had to have molds made of his limbs and head. It was really suffocating, he recalls, adding that he remembers asking Baker's assistants, "Are you sure you know how to do this?" Thankfully, they did know, and Baker got through the preparation in one piece. But the tediousness was not over. It was everyone's first time, which was both thrilling and alarming, Naughton recalls. The transformation scene took an entire week to film, with me having to spend hours in makeup, even just for a couple shots. So, that gives you a little look into that.
Yeah.
The comedic elements in this movie inspired studios to include more funny moments in horror films. For years, Landis had talked about making the film. Baker got really tired of waiting, and so he decided to go work on another movie called The Howling, which is also a werewolf movie. However, Landis was pissed, and he convinced him to leave the Joe Dante film to come back and work on American Werewolf in London instead. A sequel, An American Werewolf in Paris, was released in 1997, distributed by Disney's Hollywood Pictures. Film was directed by Anthony Waller and featured Tom Everett Scott and Julie Delpy in the lead roles. However, despite high expectations, the sequel was met with negative reviews, and it poorly performed at the box office, did not replicate the success of the original movie. There have been discussions of a reboot. However, allegations against Max Landis, who is the son of John, who has been working on the script, have put the project on an indefinite hold. So I'm not thinking there's going to be a reboot, and you know what? I think I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
Some movies need to be left alone, and I don't know what it's going to take for Hollywood to figure that out.
Yeah, there's not much you can add to this one, because even the sequel sounds like it wasn't the best idea.
It wasn't.
Which I haven't seen it. I'm sure.
Me either.
There's a lot less penis in it, probably.
Yes, and a lot less David.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would hope so. That would make no sense. Guess what, guys? I'm fine. David's actually the embassy guy in the new one. He shows up with, "Hi!"
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah.
So we did it, Pake. We got through An American Werewolf in London.
Mm-hmm.
You weren't too jokey.
Nah. Not too bad. But I had a good time with it.
I thought you might. I thought you might like the style of it.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Do we have feedback phone ringing off the hook? Hopefully it's not just like freaking telemarketers. I'm sick of them.
I know. They keep calling.
We'll check it out. All right, a little bit of feedback this week for An American Werewolf in London. The first one is like an unofficial feedback. Heard from our friend Jerry, king of the puns. We need to get him back on for like a super...
We do!
Just like absolute pundemonium for another movie at some point. I'm sure we'll make it happen. But yes, of course, you know that he had to come through and tell us he had a howling good time watching this film. Right?
Of course he did. Yes, Jerry, thank you so much. I wondered if I could get through this episode without any puns, and I never do anyway, but
it's
just
going
to
get
be
hairy.
sure.
Yeah, you got to be careful.
Yeah. Tony came through for us with a classic. Love it. The subway scene still is very scary. Totally agree, Tony. It is.
Pretty intense. Unless, like I said during the episode when we talked about it, if you look at it through the veins that he just wanted to be his friend, he was trying to return the items he dropped. No,
No. I don't think you can explain it that way, Pake. Doesn't work.
Try. It won't work, but you could try. No. And lastly here we have some feedback from Kara Ladiolas. Says, honestly, anytime Villiers and McManus show up, a laughing emoji. And one of my favorite quotes, a naked American man stole my balloon. Yeah.
Yes, he did. I'm surprised that hasn't been parodied more in films.
Right.
Because it's kind of ridiculous, and it seems like the thing that people would do, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll just start, like, throwing that into, like, the list of, like, if I'm just complaining about something or doing this, just like, oh, God, you wouldn't believe today. Like, I slept late. I couldn't, the line at Starbucks is too long. I couldn't get my coffee. Traffic was terrible. A naked American man stole my balloon. It was just, just throw it in a list of complaints and see what people say.
Oh,
That's
my goodness.
My task for people.
I would love that, and I hope you do, because I'll be so excited, because I'll just go back to this and how much fun we had talking about this movie. Well, if you would like to submit feedback like Jerry, Tony, or Kara, you can do so a number of ways. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Run for Your Lives Podcast. You can find us on Twitter at RFYL Podcast. Email us, runforyourlivespodcast@gmail.com. And if you're enjoying the show, tell your friends. We're available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, pretty much all the other podcast players, including YouTube. Go to runforyourlivespodcast.com for all the links that you're ever going to need. And give us a review on Apple Podcasts, as that is the best way to share the love and get us out there even more. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely, we do, always. And speaking of sharing the love, of course, got to give some shout-outs to things going on in the podcast universe around us. My other podcast, Strange Indeed. Of course, we are in Black Mirror Season 6. We're going, our episode for Episode 2 of Season 6, Lock Henry, is up. It was quite an interesting one. I don't want to say too much about Black Mirror stuff. It's, for those who enjoy the show, hopefully you're checking us out over on Strange Indeed. If not, if you haven't watched the show, check it out. It's an anthology series. All the episodes are different. Just jump in wherever. It's a blast. But yeah, Lock Henry was quite something.
It was. I liked it. I thought the episode was great, and I really enjoyed listening to what you and Rima had to say about it.
Yeah, and lots of other great stuff going right here in Podcastica in our network. The Cast of Us, which was previously the Walking Dead cast. So they're back in Walking Dead mode as Dead City is still running every week. Ben been at the helm of Dead City coverage, doing an amazing job over there. This week for episode 3, he's got the UK, a little UK tangent from our Zed heads, some UK Zeds. He's got Gemma and Cassie joining him for episode 3 of Dead City this week. That's up now. You can go check that out. And then also over on the Cast of Us feed, they just dropped coverage of episodes 7 through 10 of Silo, the Apple TV series. Jason, Veronica, and Amelie covering that over there. So if you watched that show and are interested in coverage of that, definitely go check out them. I know those 3 have really great thoughts about a lot of stuff like that, especially a show like that. I'm sure they get real deep, and the conversation I'm sure is great. So definitely go check that out. Over on the Revisited podcast, Ben and Kristen still trucking through the final season of Lost. They are in episode 7 this week, so make sure to check that out. Over on What Is From cast, season 2 of From has wrapped. It's over. It's done with. Left with so many questions. I cannot wait for season 3, which is confirmed. It's coming eventually. With the writer's strike of everything, who knows when and where all the things are going to be popping up, but we know season 3 is coming on the horizon somewhere down the line. But Alex and Lizzie over there on What Is From Cast will keep us busy in the meantime. And so they are releasing a full recap of season 2, a look back on it, featuring a cast member from the show, Bob Mann. So definitely want to go check that out as they recap season 2 and then look at all the mysteries that they were given, uncovered, and new mysteries that they were given to continue to ponder until season 3 happens.
I know. It ended in such a way that I'm ready for season 3. And
yes,
of course, the waiting begins.
And then I give some shouts to some other shows, whatever. If you are a Marvel fan and are watching Secret Invasion over on Disney+, got some podcasts to go check out. That, definitely check out TV Podcast Industries with their Secret Invasion coverage, and Panels to Pixels as well. Our friend Mark over there covering Secret Invasion also. So you got 2 great places to go and listen to some Marvel coverage. And then Mark is also busy this week with a new episode of Adrenaline Cinema, as he has that Pun King Jerry over there with him. I don't know how punny it's gonna get, but they are talking about The Thing. The John Carpenter 80s movie? No, the later 2011 movie that was actually a prequel that I still think we need to at some point jump into both of those movies down the line.
We do. There's 3 because there's an original one, I think, from the 50s.
Did not. I did know that somewhere in the back of my brain, but I have never seen that or seen anything from it, I don't think. But those other 2 I enjoy. Even this 2011 one that they're covering over on Adrenaline Cinema, I've seen once and I actually enjoyed it. It was a long time ago. Probably 2011. So
I have not seen it.
If I remember right, I mean, it's a pretty decent prequel. A lot of the same kind of ideas and stuff that really sets up some interesting stuff. So yeah, we'll keep that in our brains. You know, it's covered right now on Panels to not on Panels to Pixels. It's covered right now over on Adrenaline Cinema, so check that out. But then, yeah, maybe in a future season, we can run that back around over here on Run for Your Lives. So many great movies out there that exist.
There's so much. Goodness.
But next week, you can always come right here. The next episode planned for this podcast is going to be something a little different than just your regular movie coverage. Daphne, what we got going on the next time we are here?
The next time that we drop an episode, we are going to be discussing 5 things from our childhood that scared us. Mostly movies, little TV, but yeah, it's movies. You know our jam here on Run for Your Lives. So we did a special episode to talk about the things that we remember from movies that left a lasting, horrific impression on our very young brains.
Yes. That continues to maybe leave some kind of impression in our aging brains.
There are some scars. Let's just say, I think, maybe. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we're going to be talking about that.
Should be a fun one.
I think so. And with that, we've reached the end of another fun, hilarious, interesting episode of Run for Your Lives. Thanks, everyone, for listening. I'm Daphne.
And I'm Pake.
And if you have to run, you better run for your lives.
Snarl.
Bye-bye.